Now, it's a different story when it comes to the internal square thread. Yes, there are some similarities right there and there, but there are also differences as well, which makes sense because now we are going the internal route, not the external one. So we started with the external thread. So now we're gonna make the internal threads whereby your external thread should fit to. So let's say this was the case. You are given a pipe, and that pipe has a hole inside. So the diameter of the pipe is 70 units, and then the hole that is inside the pipe that is going through the pipe is what? It's 40. And then you are required to construct what? You are required to machine an internal square thread inside this pipe. So the internal square thread should be what? Should be a right hand. And then you are given what? You are given a pitch also. There's always a pitch. Doesn't matter if it's an internal or an external, a thread is a thread. There's always going to be a pitch. So the pitch is 14. It's 14 units. So since the pitch is 14 units, you know the drill that we're going to be working with what? With half pitches. So 14 divided by 2 is 7. You take the 7, you plant it in your mind because you're going to need it for the whole project. So the first thing that you do, because you know that this is a hole that is flowing through the pipe, and then you're going to have to machine what? To machine these surfaces and produce what? Square threads. A right hand internal square thread. So let's start. So from this given view right here, you've already copied and pasted it on your answer sheet. So you've redrawn it on your answer sheet. So now the first thing that you do, since you know that you have pitch, it's 7 that we got from dividing the what? The 14 by 2. The 14 was the given pitch. So the first thing that you're going to do, you mark your half pitch, which is 7 units, to this side. You plant your 7 units right there. Same thing applies for that side either. For that side too, you mark your what? 7 units, which is half pitch, half pitch. And then the next thing that you do, you take your line, you create a pitch line that is going from the starting point to the opposite end. Same thing applies for the other point. You draw another pitch line right there. And then the next thing that you deal with, you're gonna take your very same half pitch and mark along your newly marked pitch line. So you take your ruler, you measure the half pitch, which is 7, and this is your newly created pitch line. You mark 7 units, 7 units, 7 units, 7 units, all the way up to the end point. And then after marking your half pitches of 777 on this pitch line right there, you go to the following pitch line. You do the what? You do the same thing, same as if like you are constructing an external square thread. That's why I said there are some similarities, but there are also differences. So you mark another 7, then you keep doing that until you reach the end. Now, next step that you do, this is where you start confirming your what? Your direction. So since this is supposed to be an internal right hand, so for an internal right hand thread, you start closing this part right here. You start closing that part like that. And then same thing applies as the what? As the external square thread. After closing this part, you jump this one. You close that one. After closing it, you jump this one. You close that one. You jump this one. You close. You jump all the way up to the end point right there. You started by closing, it's open. And then since you started by closing on this side here, and then on the opposite side, you start by opening. Same thing applies as if like you're creating an external, but this time you're dealing with an internal. You close the part, and then the opposite part is open. Obviously, after closing here, it's gonna be open. The following part, and then the next one, close, open, close, open, close. In and outline, everything that you do right now at this point is in outline. And then this is where the difference comes in now. The shape of the internal square thread is not the same shape as the external square thread. So after doing this right here, the next thing you do from that pitch line, that pitch point over there, you close all the way to what? To that level. and then you come here, you do the same, you close to the level, and then you create a shape that is like this. So you close to the pitch line, and then this is the shape that you create. You close to the pitch line, you go to the upside, you close it again. And then when we are done with the side, you're gonna end up with something like this. For the opposite side now, since we started by closing here and that side is open and this one is closed, you do the very same thing that you did for this side right here. You start there, you close, it goes down to the level of that point. Once you reach the level of the point, you change its direction, it goes straight to the point. Same thing applies for the second part. It goes to the right, it shifts down. Once you reach the level of that point, you change its direction, it heads straight to the point. Do the same thing until you reach the end. And then the end goes down there and then that's where it ends. So the following step is to join this point and that point over there. This bottom point, it goes straight to that bottom point. And remember, this is the inner line. We have your pitch line right there, and then you have your inner line right there. So the point that's in the inner line, it goes straight to the following side, and then it joins with what? With the very same point that is on the inner line. Same thing applies. The second joins with the second. The first joins with the first. The second joins with the second. And then the next step that you do is you draw a what? You draw a center line. The center line is the line that is gonna pass at the center of this whole structure that you created right there. So this is your center line right there. So you can start by drawing the center line. It doesn't matter. You can even start by drawing the center line. It's not a problem. It's not gonna be a problem because even the center line is gonna be what? In faint line. So now the next thing that you do, let me zoom in so that you're gonna see everything properly. The next thing that you do, you close that section from the outer point now. Because remember, we started by closing the inner points, joining the inner points together. Now you join the outer points with what? With the center. You do not join the outer point with the outer point like this. It's not gonna make sense. You join the outer point with the center right there. So let me zoom in so that you're gonna see everything clearly, just like that. Every line that you draw right now, it should be within this shape right here, within this shape that is created right there. Even on the second step, the lines that you're gonna draw, they should be within this shape right there. You do not want to see a line that is starting from that point going all the way to the outside of the shaded area. They all should be inside the shaded area. So you've completed your first one that is there. You go to the other side, the top side now, and then you closed the outer bottom to the center, and then now you go to the outer top. Same thing applies to the center. Now you are done with this part. Same thing applies for that section. To the center, you go to the opposite side, you pull the top corner to the center also. You shift to the next step, the bottom corner to the center, and then you shift to the top corner to the center also. This is how you create an internal square thread. Bottom to the center, top to the center. And that's where it ends. And then now, after doing this, you are done with what? With the square thread. You are done drawing the internal square thread. And then the next thing that you do is you outline the outer area. So when you are done outlining the whole structure, this is where you start your sectioning, because this thing is an internal thread, and since it is an internal thread, it means that it was cut. In order for you to see the internal threads like this, you need to cut the objects. Either is a nut, because a nut has internal threads whereby the bolt is gonna go inside the nut, and then the nut has an internal thread, the bolt has external threads. And then if you cut a nut in half and that nut has square threads, internal square threads, you're gonna see something like this. Especially if they are a right hand square threads, you're gonna see something like this. And then after outlining your whole drawing, you're gonna section this part right there. All this part should be in section, which means you're gonna put hatching lines exactly on that highlighted part. Same thing applies for what? For the opposite part right there. And then just like that, you are done with your task. This is how you complete an internal square right hand thread. The left hand internal thread, you're gonna close this first part, you jump the second on that side, you close you jump, you close, you jump, you close. So which means it's gonna rise from this point to that point over there. That is how your left hand is gonna take direction. It's gonna rise from where? From this point to that point over there, to that direction. That direction. Inversely is gonna be an inverse of this. So ladies and gentlemen, this is how you produce a what? A right hand internal square thread. So I'm done with